Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. In this last chapter of 1053 of One Piece, we saw some very important events just getting ready to kick off in Wano. We have an admiral who's currently in the country and looking on a quest to either capture or defeat Luffy. And of course the pirates who also, participated in the fight at Onigashima to take them into custody as well. Meanwhile, outside of Wano, there's a lot going on that nobody expected. Buggy has managed to become a Yonko in some way that nobody knows how he managed. And even more surprising than that, we're now entering, it seems, the final saga of One Piece, where we're going to get to see the final huge matchup and fights, all these great characters coming to their, full level, as well as a great amount of mysteries being revealed and unfolded. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the events that could happen at the end of this Wano arc, what confrontations could still happen at the end of this story, and what the end of this arc and the beginning of the next arc may look like. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel, we'd be absolutely honored if you consider leaving us a like, or even subscribing with a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content, and if you'd love to help us out in a bigger way, consider sharing the video or the channel with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So friends, in these last chapters, we've seen a lot of things happen. Big Mom and Kaido are seemingly defeated, maybe even dead, and after the whole battle at Onigashima. We see that Luffy and Buggy were chosen to replace them as new Yonkos, and now we're just starting to get a little bit of a party started. One of the other things we learned is that Luffy got this title of Yonko not only for being able to defeat Kaido almost single-handedly, I mean, let's be real, he had a lot of help, and also for seeming to have several territories that have been conquered by the Straw Hat Grand Fleet that is currently searching and conquering and at least maybe even freeing territories in Luffy's name. And it's this way that through his work and the work of others like Bartolomeo, where he's becoming very famous. As for Buggy's case, we really don't know exactly how he achieved the title of Yonko, since we've had no information about the outside world because of Wano's really totally isolated nature. There also even seems to be kind of a miscommunication or even a misunderstanding of what devil fruits and devil fruit powers are. It seems that those that live in Wano who encounter these devil fruits consider them like ninja techniques or powers that they can use in any way, that they want. So for this reason, we really don't know how Buggy became a Yonko or how he could have done so in such a short amount of time. I mean, we've seen he's not exactly as powerful as any of the Yonko, but he really also hasn't had too great an effect on the world to be considered a dangerous pirate. However, there is a real distinct possibility that he could have become a new Yonko by having conquered several territories, since Admiral Ryukugyu says that the world outside is an absolute mess. So while the Straw Hats were in Wano facing down Kaido and Big Mom, the Yonko territories were left unprotected, and maybe Buggy made his move. Just think about the idea that if Big Mom and Kaido were not there to protect, certain territories, Buggy would be able to take them over. Just like the idea that when Luffy took over kind of Fishman Island from Big Mom, that ended up being something of kind of a major thing, but Luffy could do it because there was nobody there as her representative. So this is how Buggy might have made this happen. And on top, the idea of the crew that Buggy earned after Marineford and all of the people that he kind of broke out of Impel Down with. And this is actually a very likely option of what we're going to see. Now, just as I said, as powerful as a Yonko may be, if they're not there to protect their domains, as we saw Shanks actually lost one of his islands to Luffy's fleet, who somehow managed to conquer Shanks' territory. And for the record, Shanks didn't care that he lost. After all, it was conquered by Luffy's allies, so he just accepted that the island was taken over by the Straw Hats and still continued in his mission, which we still don't know what's going on there. So all of this chaos that Ryukugyu is referring to could be the fact that while the Straw Hats have been fighting Kaido, Buggy took the same opportunity to steal the domain of Yonkos or even another pirate who had some pretty good notoriety in the world. And in this way, Buggy might have been able to obtain the title of Yonko through that territorial domination. For even though Buggy isn't that powerful a pirate, we've seen that he is opportunistic and he's very, very smart and savvy about his own shameless self-promotion. So even though he didn't have maybe the physical oomph, he does have that influence in the world just like Luffy can have. Also in chapter 1053, we had the revelation and confirmation that Pluton is in Wano. Now, we still don't know exactly where they are in this last chapter, and we don't know what it is, but we're hoping that in this next chapter of 1054, we might get even its location, if not its full appearance, and what it actually is. All that we currently know, or at least have ideas of, is that Pluton is some kind of giant boat, and it's not known if this boat, besides having great destructive power, has some other special thing like a conscience or is autonomous, like, for instance, the way the Going Merry had developed its own kind of heart over all of the journeys that the Straw Hats had early in their, legs of this trip. Or instead of some kind of vessel or boat, where that could have honestly been some kind of a distraction or red herring, perhaps Pluton is something of a living being. I mean, after all, we've seen that Poseidon, the ancient weapon Poseidon, is none other than Princess Shirahoshi of Fishman Island. So it's highly probable that if we have another great ally of this former Joy Boy, or Nika, however it turns out to be, it could be that this other being who has another great, amazing power comes from Wano. If we also consider the fact that these ancient weapons have existed for over 800 years, and we don't necessarily know their origin, they could have in fact originated from the ancient kingdom, or at least from different ancient kingdoms that allied themselves and were ultimately destroyed by the 20 other kingdoms that formed the initial world government. These weapons or individuals may have then scattered themselves after this huge conflict in the ancient past to keep their destructive powers away from the world government or anyone that would seek to use it for evil. Shirahoshi also wasn't always the bearer of this power. Apparently, it's been passed down in an unknown way through fishmen and mermaids of royal blood and those that have been worthy of inheriting it. Now, we don't necessarily know if Shirahoshi possesses power from birth, but it had to have belonged to another fishman or fishwoman or merman or mermaid that lived during the time of the ancient kingdom. But going back to Pluton for a minute, remember, this was the first ancient weapon that was ever really discussed in the story, and this of course occurred during the Alabasta arc. Now, we weren't even shown anything about its appearance or even a silhouette. It's during this Alabasta arc where we see that Nico Robin had teamed up with Crocodile to prevent him from getting Pluton. But Nico Robin also was preventing him from getting any information and was able to actually and ultimately discover Pluton's location. Adding on to the intrigue, even though she knew the location, Robin never told anyone, not even her other Straw Hats, where Pluton was located. Now, perhaps this was done out of fear or just to simply keep them safe, but for a long time, she has kept this secret within herself. So in these last couple chapters, at the end of the conflict in Wano, we see Nico Robin going to look for the hiding place of Pluton, because in the writings of the Poneglyph in Alabasta, they led her directly to Wano, the place where this great power is supposed to be hidden. While searching, she comes across Tenguyama Hitetsu, who reveals his true identity to her and claims to be Kozuki Sukiyaki, the former shogun of Wano. And of course, in this moment, she questions him about the location of Pluton. Sukiyaki confirms to Robin that Pluton is indeed in Wano, and at this moment afterwards, the dialogue ends. But only in the next couple of chapters, hopefully, will we find out about their location, since the conversation is closed for other events in Wano. Another event in our unfolding story that we need to see how it's going to play out is, of course, the arrival of an admiral in Wano. For now, it seems that this person is going into Wano to take out all the pirates and maybe even just kind of take over the country, since we're at this really delicate place of transition. Wano is an immensely rich nation, and this is a place that the world government would definitely want to get their hands on. Now, aside from all of the riches and other things that the world government could exploit, there is also the fact that one of the ancient weapons is there. And it could be that the Gorosei even know that Pluton is in Wano, since they've shown a great interest in this country, but just haven't been able to act because of the closed borders and virtual impenetrability of the island. But of course, we can't be for sure if this is the Gorosei's motive and based on their own knowledge, because Wano is isolated and it's extremely difficult to get news from inside. So really the only means is if you have somebody on the ground with a transponder snail or somebody who is actively leaving Wano. So if the Gorosei do know that Pluton is in Wano, it's gotta be from some very old information or some informant who may have found out where Pluton is, so the world government, may be kind of showing their hand a little bit about wanting to use this powerful ancient weapon. One of the most exciting things, though, is that right now, currently in One Piece, we're seeing the final stage of our Straw Hat story. And now they're getting even more close to achieving their dreams. But we now are probably going to have the largest and final obstacles along the way. With the defeat of 2 Yonko, we have to know that the balance of power in the world is going to shift. And Luffy and the rest of the Yonko are going to become a big problem for the world government, as these 2 pirates are really unpredictable, especially if you think about it, Buggy. Since the world government doesn't know their next move, it's going to become much more complicated for the Marines and the world government to keep the Yonko under control. So they may really only be down to one option. And that option's gonna be taking the lives of the new Yonko. Because this way, even if the balance of the world was in the favor of the world government, at least there would still be a peace, because if the current Yonko, which would be really Shanks and Blackbeard, if they were able to keep the peace between the 2 of them, it would be okay. But when you throw Luffy and Buggy into the equation, we're talking about 2 people who have very divergent but similar goals. Luffy, of course, wishes to become the king of the pirates through finding the One Piece treasure, and that'll, with conquering the Grand Line, will bestow upon him the title of king of the pirates. While Buggy is wanting to conquer and become kind of king of the pirates through his various deeds around the world, and necessarily isn't going after the treasure. Now, if anyone were to become king of the pirates and make it to the last island and find this, ancient and secreted and closeted knowledge, it's gonna cause problems for the world government. And because this is the main objective of both really Buggy and Luffy, and we don't know, maybe Blackbeard too, this is gonna present a great threat to the world government overall. As we move towards the future, it seems like the world government is gonna really prioritize the balance of the world being maintained by the Marines, the SSG, and maybe if not Yonko, then really the Admirals kind of have to step in to fill that void. But since the Yonko can't be controlled by the world government, we might see a bit of an escalation and the world government looking to remove them as well, just as they did with the warlord system. Add on the fact that Luffy has just awakened an ancient devil fruit, and is something that hasn't been seen in 800 years, and is really a big thing that the world government, and especially the Gorosei, have wanted to get their hands on. This pretty much just paints a permanent target on Luffy and the rest of our Straw Hats. The last factor that we'll add in here is also our Joy Boy factor. Now, we know that this Joy Boy character had immense power in their hands and immense influence, and had brought liberation to so many people who had had their freedoms taken away by the kingdoms that, of course, went on to form the world government. And this is kind of gonna be the next thing that Luffy inherits, and we're gonna get to find out exactly what this role might be. But the world government may in fact want to stop Luffy from learning about all of this, because if he were to learn about what Joy Boy did and what the world government is really and truly hiding, that might be something that further escalates and inspires Luffy to move on. So we may see that this moment right now in Wano, going from chapter 1053 to chapter 1054, is a rare moment in which the world government may be able to get their hands and eliminate a threat before it grows too far out of their control. Now, whether Admiral Ryukugyu knows that Luffy has the power that he has, or what he seeks to inherit, he knows the danger that Luffy presents. So this may be one of those things that he is gonna go and try and take care of for the world government to earn his place. So however all of these things play out here in our last couple of chapters of Wano, and as we get launched into the next great saga of One Piece, we have to acknowledge the fact that Luffy has probably become the most wanted Yonko, if not wanted person in the world. Now, he may not have the highest bounty, but he again possesses this awakened fruit that makes him the world government's greatest danger. Now, while the Marines might look at Yonko as a danger, they may still be tasked to capture him. So in these next chapters, it's going to be really important, because we may finally get some more answers to these questions that we may have already kind of always had doubts about. But for now, we're going to have to wait and see what Oda gives us in this wonderful next chapter of 1054. So with all that said, my friends, we would love to know what you think about it. What is something you are really excited about in these next couple of chapters? And do you think Ryukugyu is there to take out Luffy? Do you think he's there to capture and destroy everybody? Or do you think that, maybe he's there for another purpose? Because there's been a couple of different thoughts out there in the community. And also, where do you think we're headed next? Where is the next island or arc? We've got a saga, which means we've got a couple of different arcs, but where do you think we're headed next? Let us know what you think in the comments below. So as we wrap up, I want to thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end. Be sure to comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like or hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.